So my mum and dad had me really young, she was 18 and he was 17. They weren't really ever together, just kind of casually seeing each other, and they've never been in a relationship, but they're good friends and honestly for most of my life they co-parented really well. That kinda ended about 6 years ago when my dad met his now fiancée though. She's always made it very apparent that she doesn't particularly like me. I'm not sure why. I'd how to describe what it's like, so I'll give you some examples. She rarely calls me my name when talking to other people about me. I'm always your son if she's talking to dad, or dad's name son if she's talking to someone else, or just simply the boy. She only uses my name if she wants to get my attention. I have a bedroom at their house, which has my things in it and is decorated how I wanted it. They have a larger spare room that they give to overnight guests if they have them, but she still refers to my room as a spare room or guest room. Several years in a row she's told dad she'd rather I stayed at my mum's for Christmas because she wanted a little family do at theirs. If it was a case of her just not liking kids I think I'd get it, but that isn't the case. She has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous relationship and she and dad have 3 kids together, 5-year-old twin boys and a 1-year-old girl. I get on well with all the kids, it's just her who doesn't like me. So on to the problem. Dad proposed to her a couple of months ago and they're getting married next autumn. I found out last week that I'm not going to be a part of the wedding. That's fine in and of itself, except all of my stepper half-siblings are a part of the wedding. Her daughter is a bridesmaid, the twins are ring bearers, and even my baby sister is gonna be a flower girl. I've not even been asked to be an usher or anything. I'm gonna be honest, I'm really freaking upset by this. I feel like I've deliberately been left out. I really just feel like she and dad have their own family now and they don't want me to be a part of it. I've basically decided that if I am not allowed to be a part of the wedding, then I'm not going at all. If they don't want me to be a part of their family, then why the hell should I bother? I haven't told dad yet, but I've said all this to mum and she says she thinks I'm being irrational. She thinks it's crappy I wasn't included too, but I'm overreacting and that this isn't a hill worth dying on. She says I'm probably gonna permanently damage my relationship with my dad if I do this and it's not worth it, but I'm really seething. Would I be the idiot if I refuse to go to the wedding since I'm not included? Not the idiot, seriously, you're 16. Your dad could easily have made you a groomsman. Something that would be entirely his choice. It wouldn't take much effort at all to make you feel included. By enabling her, your dad is the one damaging your relationship with him. It's better for you to avoid their wedding than to be guilt-tripped into going. The thing to consider is whether it's really worth putting the effort in to get hurt. If I were you, by this point, I would be way past caring. Let your dad know that you won't be attending. Not the idiot. They have excluded you deliberately and haven't asked how you feel about it. You would be well within your rights to not want to go. The fact your mum is calling you out for it is unfair because you aren't the one damaging the relationship, your dad is. However, before you make a decision, perhaps talk to your dad and explain how you feel. If nothing changes and they refuse to have you at the wedding party, then obviously do what you want to do. Not the idiot. What? Your dad is the one who damaged your relationship with him because he's allowed you to be treated like the unwanted stepchild for 6 years and now you have purposefully been left out of his wedding. Before I fly the twin birds at him and his wedding, I'd talk to him one-on-one and ask him if there is any reason he had for leaving you out of your own father's wedding while all of your siblings were major parts, adding before he can get a word in edgewise that it's made you seriously rethink your entire part in this family and your relationship with him and his wife-to-be. Nearly a decade ago I was a young kid in love. The two of us fell in love hard and fast and the next thing you know we were expecting a child. It was a complicated time. We weren't sure what we wanted in life, but we knew abortion was not an option. So I asked her to marry me and we moved in together. That didn't last long. It turns out we only liked each other when things were fun. When things were difficult we couldn't stand each other. We fought constantly. We thought things would get easier after the birth of our daughter, but that only made it worse. She has postpartum depression, and I was working so much to support both of us that I was always tired and miserable. Less than a year after our daughter was born she broke down. She told me she regretted everything and did not want this life. She moved out and went to live with her mom several hundred miles away. From then on it was just my little girl and I. I filed for custody and won. I never worried about child support from her. It had taken me nearly 2 years to officially get custody. She lived with me the entire time, the state just hadn't made it official. And by that time things were going well. I worked my way up in the industry I was in. I was making nearly twice as much as when she was first born. We were doing okay. Until we weren't. My job paid well, but was physically demanding. I was injured and could no longer do that kind of work. I found another job working in an office and I'm happy with it, but the pay isn't nearly as good. My daughter started having seizures. She was in the hospital for a while to get them under control. She has epilepsy. She's doing okay now, but the treatment and medication are more than I can afford with my current job. I had no choice but to file for public assistance. This is where it gets tricky. They said I can't get the assistance unless my child's mother is on child support. Their logic is, why should the state pay when there's another parent who can foot the bill? So I filled out the form and a court date was set. She didn't show up. I'm not sure if she even knew about it. I haven't spoken to her in years and have no clue where she is. I did have her social security number and included it in the paperwork. So the state found her somehow. An order was set for child support and I was granted assistance. My daughter can't see her neurologist regularly and get her medication. However, the child support was never actually paid. After enough months of non-payment, a warrant was issued for my ex's arrest. Before we split, I told her not to worry about support, that I could handle this myself. I'll admit this was said during a fight while I was hurt and being emotional. I really tried to do this on my own but failed. Now I feel like a jerk for going back on my word. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, you tried to contact her, you're doing the best you can as a single parent. The system requires her to pay, not you personally. And has she ever tried to contact you or even cared about how her daughter is? I am assuming she received the notifications to come to court and be accountable and just chose not to. Have you tried to reach her through her family if you don't know her contact info? It sounds like you honestly tried to reach her, so this is on her. I wish you and your daughter the best. Not the idiot. If your ex didn't terminate her parental rights, she's still on the hook for potential changes in child support requirements, even if the agreement at the time was that you would have full custody and she would pay nothing in child support. The flip side of that decision is that even though she agreed to you having full custody at the time, she left the door open to change the custody agreement in the future. That was her choice. What's happening now is a result of a decision that she made. No idiots here, because I have no idea what your ex's situation is or whether she can pay. If she can pay you and just decided not to, she's the idiot. Personally, I think it's awful government policy to jail people for non-payment of support, but that decision was 100% out of your hands. You and your daughter needed the government money. This was the only way to get it. You had no legal right to waive support, and your duty here is to your child, not your ex. I live with 2 cats, Herschel and Mordecai. They are senior citizens like myself and they are my 2 best friends. They give me a reason to get up and have productive days instead of zoning out in my armchair all day. My daughter is in her 20s and is a very intelligent woman. She has a baby girl who's just turned 3 and her mother, my ex-wife, recently asked her to leave their home due to the fact that she's selling her place and downsizing to be with her partner of some years. My daughter took the news badly and burned ties with her mom. She then asked me if I would consider letting her stay here. My daughter lived with me from ages 11 till 17 and she was always very hostile to the boys. She would throw their food away because it smelled bad, lock them outside because they used a litter tray and she didn't want to smell it, and she once went so far as to remove their collars and let them out the front, which I have never in my life done, so they were extra confused and scared. Each time, by the grace of God, a neighbor returned them or they've come back, but the possibilities of them being eaten by a coyote or run over were high. When she had her child, she was extra hostile to the cats and would swat them away when they came to sniff the baby. I don't trust that she hasn't or won't hurt them. They also hate her and run every time she enters the room they're in, so I have suspicions. I told my daughter frankly that my cats are my priority and that if she can respect that they have run of the house, then she's welcome. That wasn't good enough for her and she asked that I rehome them to my lady friend who is a cat lover. I said absolutely not, end of discussion. You can't stay. She has savings and I know the only reason she wants to live with me or her mother is because she knows she'd have an easy time of things like reduced rent, food on the table, babysitting for free, etc. Her mom called me up and berated me saying I'm making an enormous mistake by choosing my cats over our daughter and her daughter and that I'm living on another planet. I come on Reddit a lot, so I was hoping to hear some outside opinions. Not the idiot, and to be honest, your daughter sounds like a complete brat. A woman in her 20s severed ties with her mother because she wasn't allowed to freeload off her anymore. Yikes. The treatment she put your cats through as a teenager is nightmarish. I would not put it past her to drop them in the woods herself if you let her move in with you. I know no one wants to hear that their child is a bad person, but my god. Someone who repeatedly hurts animals is pretty indefensible in my opinion. Please do not allow your daughter to move in, even if she agrees to your terms. She's going to abuse your cats, no matter what she says to get her way. Not the idiot, but you will be an idiot if you let her manipulate you into giving her access to innocent pets. Her past behavior may indicate that she's capable of trying to get rid of them in hope of changing your mind, so I hope she doesn't have a key to your house. Keep an eye on her when she visits too. Do it for the kitties. Not the idiot. Why isn't she moving out on her own? She's an adult. It's like she isn't even considering being a grown-up and figuring out her own life. You make a lifetime commitment to pets. Your daughter's irresponsibility in her life shouldn't mean your senior cat should suffer. There's no medical reason here. The fact is, she's a parent, she's an adult, she should be living on her own and handling her own life. Mostly, she doesn't appreciate your help in the first place. Don't enable this crap by rearranging your life. So, long story short, one of my daughters is in big trouble with me at the moment. I found out at a parent and teacher meeting today that she and her friends have been bullying a girl at school. The teacher showed me a note she confiscated and it was beyond. When I got home I told my daughter that she is grounded for the foreseeable future and I will be taking a few days to decide what the full extent of her punishment will be. About 20 minutes later a couple of her friends came over and I reminded my daughter that being grounded means no visitors. She told me that they were spending the night because they all had appointments fairly early tomorrow to get their hair done for homecoming tomorrow night. I told my daughter that she's not going to homecoming because she's grounded. She flipped out, as you would imagine. She started crying and begging and told me that she had already spent money on tickets and a dress and that it wasn't fair to do this the day before the dance and that I was punishing her date also because now he'd have to go alone. My wife and I always back each other when it comes to disciplining the kids, so my daughter called her older sister as well as all of her aunts and both of her grandmothers and begged all of them to talk to me about letting her go to the dance. They've been calling me saying it's unfair of me to do this the day before. I told them that the timing isn't my fault. I found out when I found out, and as soon as I found out, I told her she was grounded. It's not like I found out a week ago and then waited to spring it on her today. You are the idiot, but that is what you're supposed to be in this situation. You're not a friend, you're her parent, and sometimes that means being strict and making them hate you for a while. Obviously, I really think you're not the idiot, but you get my point. People, especially kids, don't learn lessons if they get away with crap without consequences. If you make an exception to her punishment to allow her to do the thing she wants to do most, then it's not really a punishment at all. Not the idiot. It's totally appropriate that she has to miss out on upcoming recreation and celebratory events, but I'd recommend that you be careful that you don't allow her to feel like a victim or martyr herself. Her behavior described by you definitely makes it seem like it's going that way. Try not to just let her stew in her own misery as much as possible. Perhaps spend the grounded time together like a long drive, a night camping, even painting a room or completing a puzzle, during which you both talk about the seriousness of her offense. Not the idiot, as someone who's been on the receiving end of similar punishments when in big trouble, please do it. While I of course hated it at the time, looking back I really am grateful for my parents' principles. Now that I'm an adult you can so easily tell if people never had to face the consequences when they grew up, so they never learned, and it is hurting them big time now personally and professionally. You're not mean. You're not doing this without cause. Actions have consequences, and sometimes, those consequences can come back to you in the hardest way, at the most inopportune moment. There are 5 adults living in my home. There's me and my fiance, and then my daughter, her boyfriend, and my son. The 3 kids are all in their early 20s and are in college. My 2 kids have some epic arguments over the stupidest stuff. They are both in counseling to try to work on their relationship, and it is getting better, but when they argue, they pull the rest of us into it, and it is very stressful on the whole family dynamics. The other night, it was my fiance's day off and we had all been working around the house all day, getting the house ready for a cookout this week. My fiance had just sat down at the computer to relax with a nerdy video game when my kids started arguing over some task my son apparently didn't complete fast enough for my daughter. My fiance has very high blood pressure and is on medication, but we still try to keep him calm. He's a super sweet guy, but never had kids of his own, so sometimes he can't handle sibling drama very well. He tells my kids to stop arguing or at least take it somewhere else because he wants to relax. My son keeps talking, trying to explain. It explodes with my fiance telling him to just shut up. My fiance gets in the car and leaves to go read a book somewhere to calm down. My son comes to where I am and is still explaining how he hates it when people tell him to shut up. My daughter tries to tell him that when my fiance gets angry he could easily have a heart attack or a stroke, and my son just said that's stupid. He keeps on arguing. I can't take it anymore, and I finally scream that either he shuts up and goes to his room or he can just leave my house. I am so angry that he thinks his right to talk is more important than my fiance's health. It's been 3 days. My son will not leave his room unless he's going to work, etc. He is furious at my fiance and me, and no matter how much I've tried to talk to him, he acts like a complete victim. I don't know what to do. Everyone's the idiot here. All you do is defend your live-in boyfriend, have a daughter and blame your son for everything. Favoritism. And it shows. I feel bad for your son. Why would you not scold both of them? Doesn't matter who wouldn't stop, they both engaged in arguing. And your daughter started it. Then your fiance couldn't leave the room himself. He decided to be rude to one of your kids. If your fiance cared about his own health, he'd take his relaxation elsewhere instead of engaging, or do y'all not have rooms? Out of all the idiots, you're the biggest one. Everyone's the idiot here. I understand your fiance has high blood pressure, but if he can't handle sibling arguing maybe he shouldn't live there. That's a lot of people in one house. If he is going to snap at your kids over little things, that is a big red flag. Your kids shouldn't have had their argument in front of him while he is trying to unwind. You automatically took your fiance's side over your son's instead of getting the full story. You allow your fiance to treat your kids disrespectfully. You're the idiot. Sounds to me like your daughter is deliberately antagonistic and you're deliberately ignoring that when she gets the desired effect from your son. I mean, you told us it started because your daughter took issue with your son. It also sounds like you favor your daughter and your son has picked up on this, which will only breed resentment. No wonder he's angry. You and your daughter sound like dreadful people. I wouldn't let someone who isn't his father scream at him either. Cut your boy some slack and consider soothing the cause instead of reacting to the symptoms.